Good day, COPA Johannesburg. This is Nathan Satosky, and I'm sitting here with Graeme Currie. How you feeling today?
Pretty good, man. Pretty cool.
Pretty cool. It's about time we get you on here. So this is going to be on for the COPA Johannesburg, COPA Durban, COPA Pretoria, and COPA Cape Town students. Just listen to and really sink into your knowledge and your wisdom on all your years of experience. So I got some questions in this interview, obviously. So the first one is, with 40 plus years in the industry, what are some secrets you can share with us about remaining relevant over the years?
Well, the first thing is, like, for me, it's just passion, and just checking out the kind of the groove of the day, like the rhythm of the day. You can write great songs and you can play good bass lines and all that kind of stuff. But if you've got the kind of the rhythm of the day, it will all fit in, And when I mean the rhythm of the day, I mean, like, with the advent of different rhythms that have evolved over the last, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years, just kind of doing that and, keeping the groove in.
So then do you sometimes just go and listen to pop music just to see what's going on today?
I'm a total pop junkie. I mean, a lot of people don't know that about me, but I'm a total pop junkie, and I always have been. Look, I started off with rock and roll. And when I say rock and roll, I mean like Slade and Deep Purple and Uriah Heep and Black Sabbath and all that. But pop music has always been part of my life because I've had to play that stuff on gigs, and I love the production values of pop. So that's good. Then I got into other stuff, such as jazz and fusion and jazz rock and stuff, and then I play everything,
Oh, play everything. That's good. Be versatile, I guess. And then you've worked with so many people in bands, from late Wendy Masekela and
Wendy Msaleko.
Msaleko. Wow, my goodness, Msaleko. Yes, to the Illustrator's Joyous Celebration in South Africa. How has being versatile helped you in your career?
Just because you kind of have to do it, and you know what? A lot of that stuff I learned was from gigs. From gigs, playing at the Curry Haven and playing at the Alhambra Theatre. For like shows and stuff, and playing with the orchestra and playing Saturday afternoon at the Umhlanga Sands. Kind of all those gigs, all piled up until you get more and more and more. So you had to play a whole lot of different styles, and you kind of learnt as you went. That's the thing. You learned as you went, and then the whole thing about sight reading, that really helps you. Like, because with Wendy Msaleko, I was with Joyous Celebration, and that was all sight reading stuff. So that's that's versatility has kind of really come over the years. Really, that's kind of what it is.
So it's like, if you're not versatile and you don't adapt, then you die.
Yeah. You just have to stay up there with it, current, and but that's what I do. That's my job.
That's good. So could you tell us about some other bands and musicians you've worked with then?
In this industry in South Africa, I've played with like almost everybody. Just because maybe I was there at the time, said, oh, well, who can we get? This guy here, Well, not really that so much, because obviously you kind of build up a name. You kind of create your reality. You build up a name and stuff like that. So I've been on the scene. That's the thing. And if you're on the scene, people kind of remember you. And I was also, for a while, I was known as the busiest working man in show business, and like everybody knew, because I wore the hat and stuff like that. So everybody says, oh yeah, get that guy in the hat, like whether that looks cool to some people or not, whatever, so sometimes David Byrne, Talking Heads, he once said, people remember you if you wear the same clothes, because that's kind of like an image, so the hat has become kind of image, and always kind of dressed in the black, and and I sometimes wear the bolo tie, that Texas string tie, so people kind of have got this kind of image of you, and that is so favorable, because it counts in your favor, because people say, oh, I saw you on this gig, oh, you're on the, and I've had so many people coming up to me on gigs and saying, oh, I saw you with Rodriguez, or I saw you with this person. Okay, so yeah, back to your question. So yes, I've played with like almost everybody in the industry, and then I was very fortunate to do the Rodriguez thing, which became the movie. After the concert, it became the movie, and then so you get known for that. And Jennifer Rush, I did with her, and so many different types of people, and then when I was in the States, it was the Mamas and the Papas, California Dreaming and stuff like that, and a whole bunch of artists like that, so you tend to forget them, maybe because the age and the memory. No, that never goes. Like you always remember those special times.
Always remember those. So which would you say was the strangest gig you've ever had? Strangest.
I guess they're all kind of strange in a way. Depends on kind of like what value you kind of put on them. So nothing's really strange. It's just strange is the music industry, you know, because you get all sorts of types of things. You know, you go to a gig sometimes and somebody says, "Can you do this? Can you do that?" You know, no particular details, but then you go, "All right, I haven't heard that one before, but I'll do it." You know, I'm game. You know, so strange. Everything's strange.
Everything has changed. Expect strange, then, basically. Oh, that's very good, then. So, where did you study music? And if you did, how did that education contribute to you being the great musician, producer, music director, and composer that you are today?
I started off, as I said, just learning kind of pop music for gigs and stuff like that. And then I kind of did a Berklee correspondence course way back in, when was that? Late 70s, you know, I did that. And so I learned a lot of knowledge there, and I did some kind of Royal Schools of Music, unofficial Royal Schools of Music stuff with a great keyboard player called Keith Hutchinson, who's still around on the scene. And then I went to Berklee College of Music, and then I went to North Texas State University and all that. And then, you know, so that's kind of where I got my musical training from, a theoretical thing. But the main musical training I got was on stage, you know. On stage, and then because, you know, the music came first, theory came later, you know. With theory is the analysis of the stuff that you've played, you know, if you want to look at it like that. Yeah.
So then when did you first pick up a bass guitar then and just realize this is what I want?
Precisely on my 17th birthday, because I was listening, you know, like, I mean, when bass kind of really tempted me early on in my years. I remember watching Top of the Pops in England when I grew up there, and Joe Cockers with a little help from my friends, and I was just, you know, chilled out. I mean, chilled, you know, got chills from the bass, you know, the bass sound of the bass, and then I heard some jazz stuff, you know, Swing Low Sweet Chariot at school, and I heard the double bass, and you know, the bass really moved me. So I went and bought a bass on my 17th birthday, because I said, you know, a friend of mine said, let's form a band. I said, okay, I'll play bass, you know. It wasn't even guitar or drums like that. It was just, I'll play bass. So that's kind of how I started as far as the bass goes, you know. Was that the question?
Yes, that was. Sorry.
Multi-layered question or something, you know.
Yeah, I was curious. That was my question. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about atmospheric with an F.
Always people, atmospheric is normally spelled PH, you know. So take the F, take the PH out, put the F in, you know, a bit of a connotation to another word, you know. Atmospheric with an F.
With an F. For goodness sake. So if they end up asking, sorry, atmospheric, how do you spell that one?
Okay, so that band Wendy and I have had together, Wendy Twyford, Wendy Allen, we've had that band together since 2001, and we developed this kind of style because we were playing jazz standards, and I kind of wanted to do something slightly different. So the keyboard player was playing just very simple chords, and I used to change the harmony a lot by changing the bass notes, you know, and we kind of developed our style from that. And I remember one kind of prominent jazz musician in this country, also a bass player, once said to me, he says, no, you're playing the wrong notes, you know. But I don't think he realized that I was like developing a style, you know. So I was trying out different notes to suit that kind of stuff, you know. And through my harmony knowledge, you know, and all that kind of stuff, I was kind of using those kind of superimpositions and reharmonization and stuff like that, you know. And so we developed a style. And then sometimes when you got lost in the song, I would just say, okay, you know, vamp. You know, so we used to vamp, you know, like just repeat a section over and over, you know, and then that's kind of where we got the groove thing from as well, you know. And then in Paris, France, there was all this stuff going on with the acid jazz movement, and so we listened to a lot of that. And then with this first album, Atmospheric with F, there was stuff influenced by that as well, but also influenced by on gigs, you know, our gig kind of experiences. And you know, Wendy with her great voice and kind of blues and subtle, sultry tones. You know, she kind of had put the kind of the female vocal element in, and of course I kind of was responsible for the bass and all the harmony there. And playing double bass, you know, adds another kind of dimension. You know. So that's atmospheric, and we've got some new stuff coming out now with this 90% local quota. Yes. I'm really going to push to get that on the stations. So you know, obviously we did the album first, and then I've got some, but those, you know, it gets lost in the sea of content, you know, on the internet. We all know that, right? But then the new stuff is kind of like much more pop art jazz. I call it that, you know. So look out. Maybe one day I'll do a radio thing here, you know, and we'll do one of some of my songs. I'll punch my new songs, you know.
Definitely. So guys, be sure to check out Atmospheric with an F. It sounds very good. So now let's discuss the songs Fly Away and Closer to You.
Okay, also on the album, Atmospheric with an F, that Fly Away I wrote in 1978, inspired by a Gino Vanelli track, you know, because Gino Vanelli was all the rave with the kind of like the hip kind of contemporary pop, jazz rock kind of stuff, right? And so I wrote that then, but then we did, for the album, I did a few modifications, you know, but it was Latin, okay, you know, Latin feel, but I just kind of added some reharmonization, just stuff to suit maybe the now kind of thing, and to fit in with Atmospheric. And what was the other one, Closer to You? That song I wrote for my master's recital. And it's very much in the style of Cole Porter, you know, Cole Porter from the 1920s, the jazz thing, very, it was kind of, that was pop then, you know, so this is very like a jazz ballad, really nice jazz ballad, and wrote it for that, very nice, you know, chilled out kind of thing. That's the last song on the album, so it takes you somewhere, or puts you to sleep, should I say. So yeah, there you go. All right.
Okay, that's cool. So then, are there any artists that you still want to work with in the future?
Man, wouldn't I love to work with Peter Gabriel? You know, I always have wanted to work with Peter Gabriel. So, you know, I had that kind of dream in the 90s, you know, and because I was writing stuff that was very kind of like, not similar to his, but, you know, he's had a great influence on me. But, you know, I think every artist, I don't mind working with any artist, you know, because it's an artist, you know, and you put the best into your stuff, into their stuff, and do the best you can. I'm actually doing something next Friday with Luc van der Merwe and Gerben Groten from Hatfield Christian Church, and it's called The World in a Suitcase, you know, and it's got all the music from all around the world, and from Arabic to Moroccan to South African to world music, you know. So that's going to be a great challenge, because there's some really different stuff in it. And then I'm doing this Africa Meets India show, kind of not a Bollywood thing. That's in July. I'm doing that. So these are all artists, you know. Some artists from India work on that Coke Studio, you know, the Coke Studio sessions. So I'm doing that. So all these things, they keep coming. You know, how nice is that, man?
That's,
you know,
yeah.
and like you said earlier, you know, ask me about the versatility. That really helps, being versatile, and you know. But you know what, man? I'm just into my instrument and into music, you know, and the stuff comes, you know, because your passion will always see you through. I'll say that again, you know.
Passion will always see you through. Yeah, no, that's true. Especially with this gig that you're coming up with, all around the world sounds. If you just rock up there and sorry, what's
Look, it's pretty structured, because it's got there's a lot of written music. It's all written, so we will be reading from charts, and I've got some. I recorded on the album as well, so I'm a bit familiar. But when I say I'm a bit familiar, that album was recorded like 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm kind of, you know, I'm thinking, well, you know, how does that go? So I'm listening to it now, just before I came to this in class, just to kind of get familiar with it, and it's going to be a challenge. It sure is, you know. So, you know, it doesn't matter how versatile you are, there are challenges that come along. And, you know, the sight reading is definitely a challenge, as everybody knows, you know. But I so love that challenge, because sight reading is definitely a skill, you know.
So you just welcome the challenges.
I sure do, you know. Yeah.
All right. So then, what's the worst industry experience, and what did it teach you that you had?
I tell you what, there's never been a worse one. You know, you know, they've all been challenging to a degree. You know, if you want to kind of look at some of the you know, the specific ones, but there's never been a worst one, because they all teach you, and everyone. You know, the thing is, you got to have a sense of humor, right? Yeah. You know. And in the music, and you know what, I think people really take themselves pretty seriously now in the music industry. You know what, I've been through it all. There's humor in music. You know. And so, if you know, the best advice what I could give one is just, hey man, lighten up, you know, because you know, there's you can make serious of a serious situation, or you can make light of a serious situation, and I'm not saying to diminish that, you know, but you know, just having that kind of like, you know, carefree But carefreeness comes from confidence, So lightening up is looking at the situation and looking at it from a global kind of point of view, and just trying to do your best under the circumstances, and that ties in with the worst situations I've had,
That's a very positive outlook to
exactly.
have on it, No, that's very good. That's very good of you. So, what can you say to that young person who wants to be the next Graeme Currie?
Don't do what I did, Look, it's the great thing about the music industry is that it has no rules, and I didn't necessarily make up my own, but I went along with kind of what was happening at the time, while still being faithful to my art and my craft, but like I said, once again, the passion stuff, if. In LPW last week, I said here's no, it wasn't LPW. In the workshop I did. Here's something that was quite heavy, and quite weighted, should I say? If you make others sound good and look good, you don't have to worry about yourself. I mean, that's a big lesson there. And all the great acting teachers like Lee Strasberg in New York, he teaches stuff like that. And I didn't learn that from him. I just learned that from I was asking myself, why have I got so many gigs? Because you make other people sound good. Because you do your job. If you do your job, that's it. You're done. But if you make through your job, doing the function that you're supposed to do, you can make others sound good. And look, I guess there's some secrets that you learn along the way in order to institute that. But passion, keep on playing. That's the best advice I can say.
Sure, that is good. Yeah, just keep on playing. Keep that passion, because like you said, your passion will always see you through. Okay, cool. Well, then, any upcoming events or gigs?
Like I said earlier, with Atmospheric, we play usually twice a month at Catsy's in the Furs Rosebank, Tuesdays or Wednesdays. Pretty chilled kind of jazz vibe night, and and then you can have a meal there and everything. Grill House is known for their good food. Like I said, the 3rd of June at Hatfield Christian Church, this World in a Suitcase. I think somewhere around the 26th of July at the Lyric Theatre at Gold Reef City. Yep. There's an Africa-India thing, but I think it's actually booked out, sold out, We will be doing some stuff around the country as well with that as well. I mean, I play gigs all over the place, So that's pretty fortunate, yeah.
I gotta ask a question. So when you're gonna play like one of these big gigs, with sold out gig like that, when you play them, do you still get nervous?
No, excited and like looking forward to it, and so the thing is, like, you start to get on point, when those nerves are up, it's focusing on the situation. Yeah. So getting like there's a good word, on point, So you're focused, you're clear-headed, and you're motivated and dedicated to do the best possible job that you can, So the only time I really got really nervous was in the beginning days when I started playing, like at restaurants in Durban and stuff. Like, my knees would be shaking on say a jazz evening where it's a little bit more kind of focuses on you, as such. And I remember we're playing with the Mamas and Papas, a huge concert in Fort Lauderdale, Spring Break 1987, televised by Fox Television and all that. And I remember being on stage with the Mamas and Papas in front of 35,000 people, and my knees were shaking. Okay, look, that was when I was 25. Something way back when. Did I give that away? No, not quite. Okay. Yeah. So look, I get excited. I'm so into it. I can't wait to play. That's the thing. And that's I guess that's a confidence thing.
No, that's very good. Yeah. No, to be still excited after over 4 years.
Yeah.
It's good.
It is good. It's a blessing. Keep the faith.
Keep the faith. Well, thank you very much. Well, thank you very much, Graeme. Guys, I hope you guys had a good listen. Basically, keep that passion going, keep practicing, and get on point. If I can sum a lot of that up. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. That was Graeme.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. Real good time with you. All right.
Oh, that's very good. Thank you. Cheers, guys.